Okay, masuk lagi sekali dah studio. Okay, I'm live again. Hi. Okay, very clearer. Okay, good. Ya, restart dah. Hai ya. Okay. Ayo, that's why sometimes belajar IT tinggi-tinggi rupa-rupanya dia punya trick very senang ni, restart. Okay, good quality. Bagus. Okay. Okay. Halo. Apa khabar? We are now live dari Bukit Mertajam, Pulau Pinang. Sembang-sembang Steven Sim. Hari ke-29 Perintah Kawalan Pergerakan. Cantik. Gambar clear. Muhammad Amirul. Okay. Kita tengah tunggu kawan saya untuk masuk masuk chat room. Listen you every night, shut down phone at least once every day. Okay lah. Listen to you No, I don't use VPN here on my computer. I'm not using VPN. Okay, saya tengok kawan saya sudah masuk. Okay, sebelum saya menjemput, before I invite my friend, hari ini kita ada international. So kita sudah jadi international. Every day we invite local orang-orang Malaysia. Hari ini kita invite orang kawan antarabangsa, international friend. Okay, international friend. Jadi saya nak abak lah. Okay, saya nak abak. Benda ni tunggu sekejap. Before I introduce him, let me just say a few things. Okay. Hari ini saya tengok kita di Pulau Pinang ni, siapa-siapa yang suka main apa itu? COD, Call of Duty Mobile. Kerajaan Negeri Pulau Pinang, we are doing a tournament Liga Duduk di Rumah, so that you see at home, you don't go anywhere. You play e-sports at home. Boleh tengok di laman web www.penanglawancovid19.com ataupun in our Facebook page. Dan saya rasa dah hampir full lah. Korang nak tengok, cepat-cepat pergi register. Keduanya kita ada program pada hari Minggu, Isnin depan saya ada program virtual round table. We're going to have a virtual round table program. What is a virtual round table program? Dia ni round table tu biasalah kita ambil kumpulkan orang ramai dan kita discuss. Tapi ini virtual round table. So we do online. Dan virtual roundtable ini, dia punya fokus ialah kita nak cari semua programmer, computer programmer, developer, computer engineer, scientist, orang-orang pakar teknologi come together and discuss macam mana kita nak menggunakan teknologi untuk berdepan dengan the next normal ataupun the new normal di Pulau Pinang. Jadi Pulau Pinang kita dah ke depan. We are dealing with the next normal. We are not just dealing with apa yang akan terjadi hari ini, kita kena deal dengan apa yang akan berlaku. Jadi kita dah bersiap sedia untuk berdepan dengan the next normal. Ada Ketua Menteri hari ini ada cakap tentang strategi the next normal Pulau Pinang. Jadi kita harap dengan persiapan yang Pulau Pinang buat, kita akan lebih bersedia apabila berdepan dengan cabaran-cabaran akibat wabak COVID-19. Okey, kawan saya hari ini ialah seorang rakan saya yang saya kenal semasa saya berada di Kuala Lumpur. Nama beliau Encik Muslim Imran. Dan beliau merupakan seorang rakyat Palestin. He is a Palestinian. Why I invite a Palestinian today? Kita, especially rakyat Malaysia, kita tahu selalu kita bincang tentang isu Palestin. Banyak orang selalu bincang tentang isu Palestin. Tak kiralah bincang pasal bantuan kepada orang Palestin ataupun mungkin orang politik Orang politik akan selalu kata, ini agent Israel, ini Yahudi dan Zionis. So hari ini saya nak jemput seorang kawan Palestin, orang Palestin betul-betul, untuk berkongsi dengan kita. We want to put the whole Palestinian issue into perspective. Kita tak nak politikkan isu Palestin yang sebenarnya dengan keadaan ataupun pergolakan politik di Malaysia. Kadang-kala bila kita bergaduh di Malaysia ini, bab politik, kita bercampur aduk dan kita tarik isu Palestin ke dalam pergaduhan kita. Kemudian kita confuse, jadikan semua orang keliru. Jadi hari ini kita nak mendengar sendiri. We want to hear from ourselves. We want to hear from the mouth of a Palestinian. Kita nak mendengar daripada mulut pengalaman seorang rakyat Palestin yang berada di Malaysia tentang apakah sebenarnya isu Palestin ni. Dan saya percaya, we have to be very honest. Kita kena jujur. Saya percaya mungkin di Malaysia ini ramai kawan-kawan non-Muslim, kawan bukan Islam yang tak faham apa sebenarnya isu Palestin. Mengapa kita selalu cakap tentang Palestin, mengapa sikit-sikit nak cakap ini Israel, ini Palestin, mengapa begitu banyak perbincangan, begitu banyak minat terhadap Palestin ini. Jadi saya nak membuka, dan adakah isu Palestin ni isu agama? Adakah kalau saya Islam, saya automatik sokong Palestin, saya bukan Islam, saya tak boleh sokong Palestin? Ataupun saya bukan Islam, saya kena automatik jadi orang yang sokong Israel dan sebagainya. Jadi kita nak dengar ya dari seorang yang mempunyai pengalaman tentang isu ini, dan beliau juga sedang membuat PhD dalam isu apa, nanti kita tanya beliau. Saya tahu, tetapi we will ask him. I know what PhD he's doing, but we will ask him later. I'm very happy to have him today because I see him as one of my dear friend. I hope Malaysia has been treating him well. Yang menariknya ialah beliau sebenarnya boleh bercakap bahasa Melayu, but of course his working language is still English. Jadi kita akan bercakap dalam bahasa English, tetapi kalau mungkin kita nak dengar juga orang Palestin cakap bahasa Melayu. Alright, tanpa membuang masa, without further ado, allow me to invite Mr. Muslim Imran into our chat. Hello, brother.
Hi, how are you? Salam
I'm fine.
sejahtera. I hope you're fine.
Salam sejahtera. Are you in KL now?
In KL at home right now, yeah.
That's good. How is the movement control order there treating you?
We are coping. Actually, for a Palestinian, this lockdown or movement control is not something new, because most of us Palestinians have grown up under Israeli curfew, which is not very different, but kind of worse. So yeah, it's a new experience for some, but it's nostalgia for others.
This is very interesting. This is very, very interesting. I've never thought of it that way, that what we are facing now, this lockdown or this movement control, is similar to it's a regular experience of a Palestinian person in the Middle East, the Palestine.
You know, I've seen some Israeli journalists telling people that we really don't understand how were we imposing curfew on the Palestinians when we ourselves cannot stand 1 week of lockdown, because it's lockdown everywhere in the world. But it has been practiced for political reasons. Now it is being happening for health reasons. I really hope that you are fine, and your family, your friends, the people watching this are all fine, staying at home during this MRO. It's not easy, but it's for the good of everybody.
That's right. Thank you very much, Brother Muslim. We are fine here. I'm in Penang. I'm back in Penang. I managed to leave Kuala Lumpur just before the movement. You call it MRO, I call it MCO, but okay, we'll use your term today. MRO. Before the MRO, I left Kuala Lumpur. Now I'm back in Bukit Mertajam, which is my hometown. Okay. I hope you have invited me. You have invited me to go to Palestine. I want to invite you to come to my hometown too, in Penang.
I would love to come soon. Hopefully after this restriction is over,
That's right. That's
Food in Penang is awesome, so I will be
Have-
very glad to come.
Have you actually been to Penang?
I have been a few times. The last was 2 years ago. We met with a few NGOs there. We met with the chief minister, the current chief minister.
Right.
And of course, we experienced Kayu Nasi Kandar firsthand. Of course, we can't miss that. It was a good experience.
There are quite a number of Palestinian students in University Science Malaysia, right? USM?
Yeah. Yes, there are a few.
Because
there used to be some refugees as well in Penang. Palestinian refugees who have come from Iraq after the war, but not a big number. There were about 25 families in Penang. Now I believe most of them were repatriated, and the remaining Palestinians are students. Yes, there are some students in university science.
We still have refugees. We have Rohingya refugees now in Penang, and because of the MRO, a lot of them are also suffering. So the Penang state government has recently, I think last week, we have given a small donation of 100,000 ringgit to assist the Rohingya refugees.
That's highly appreciated. You know, YB, during this restriction order, it has been difficult for everybody, of course, but the pain is higher for some communities. It's good that the government has addressed the underprivileged with some kind of assistance, but there are millions of labor, refugees, stateless people, and other vulnerable communities in the country which really need immediate assistance, because these people are not entitled to any help officially, but they are there and they are suffering. In KL alone, I was reading that there are over 200,000 documented refugees in Kuala Lumpur. Imagine the undocumented ones. There are a few thousand others. And these people were usually reliant on temporary jobs. They can't do that now. They need to feed their children as well. So let's all pray for all these communities. It's tough times.
Right. And the thing is, COVID-19 does not discriminate.
No.
So it gets to no matter what nationality you are, what religion you are, what race you are, what gender you are, whether you are rich or poor, there's no discrimination. COVID-19 can come to you. And when we say we want to break the chain of infection, we have to not only take care of our own citizens, but also people who are here with us in Malaysia, whether they are migrant workers or refugees. So this is also an important point to many people.
True. And it's interesting that the survival of everybody is very dependent on the survival of every individual. You cannot now, it's like all other environment situations, you cannot just make it on your own. You have to work with others. You have to really work with others.
This is very beautiful. The survival of everyone is dependent on survivals or individuals. This is a very beautiful phase. Okay, I remember a few years ago, because I'm a director of Penang Institute. A few years ago, we hosted Dr. Tariq Ramadan. And when he was speaking, I met with Palestinians from USM. I'm not sure whether you were there. That was a few years ago in Penang. But may I know, in your estimation, how many Palestinians are here in Malaysia, and how long have you been here? Can you tell us a bit about your own personal history here in Malaysia?
Okay, I've come to Malaysia in 2003. That's some 16, 17 years ago. I did my undergraduate and postgraduate studies here. I did engineering and then furthered my studies in political science. I'm now writing my thesis on Malaysia's foreign policy. Wish me luck. This restriction is useful to some. You know, it's like a blessing in disguise. I do have some time now to write. So I've been working on my thesis. I'm writing on Malaysia's foreign policy towards Palestine.
This is your PhD thesis, right?
That's my PhD, yes, in University of Malaya. The numbers of Palestinians has been the number has been growing, and when I arrived in Malaysia, there were a few dozen Palestinians, mostly students. But after the war on Iraq in 2003, a few Palestinian refugees moved to Malaysia, there were about 100 families, I do remember, post 2005, after the racial and sectarian conflict started there. Dozens of Palestinian families moved into Malaysia temporarily to be repatriated later in Australia, New Zealand, and other countries. In 2011, a few hundred Palestinians started to come from Syria as well. There is a big Palestinian refugee community in Syria. They sought shelter in many places. Some of them have come to Malaysia. So by now we have about 1,000 Palestinian refugees centered in the Klang Valley. And there are about 3,000 Palestinian students and their families, a few hundred expatriates and university professors, of course, diplomats as well. So our community is not that big, but compared to other Arab communities, it's sizable. 4,000 to 5,000 people living in Malaysia, mainly in Klang Valley. So if you go to areas like Ampang or Gomba, you will certainly bump into some Palestinians.
So that is the lepak place, is it?
Exactly, yes.
Okay,
yes.
Brother Muslim, how old were you when you came to Malaysia?
Oh, I was very young. I arrived here when I was 17.
17. So 17.
Just
Now
after
you are 34.
Yeah, 34.
So kampung di mana?
Kampung di Hebron, kota Hebron. Tak jauh dari Baitul Maqdis, dalam setengah jam, 30 km.
So it's 30 km away from Baitul Maqdis or Jerusalem.
Yeah, it's 30 kilometers in space. But if you have to go through Israeli checkpoints, it's a big thing. It might take you 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, and you might be sent back at the Bethlehem checkpoints. Bethlehem is in the center between Hebron and Jerusalem. And although the city is a Palestinian city, but there are many Israeli military checkpoints on the way to Jerusalem. So if you are lucky, you can make it to Jerusalem in 2 hours. But most people, especially below 50 years old, are usually sent back. You need to have special permits in order to travel to Jerusalem for prayer or even for business.
So have you been to Jerusalem yourself, to Baitul Maqdis?
I've been to Jerusalem, but the last time was in 2000, before the Intifada. I left Malaysia 3 years after that, but within those 3 years, I was not able to visit Jerusalem because of the Israeli restrictions. It's a beautiful place. You walk through history. If you walk through the old town of Jerusalem or the old town of Hebron or the city of Bethlehem, it's beautiful. You walk through history. But unfortunately, due to war and Israeli apartheid, it's difficult to enjoy that history, not only for tourists, but also for the people who live there.
For your information, Brother Muslim, I mean, I'm sure you know this. Malaysians because we do not have a diplomatic relation with Israel, so we cannot go to Jerusalem. But I've told you before, as a Christian, it has always been my wish to visit Bethlehem one day. And Bethlehem is under the PLO.
Yes, it's under the Palestinian Authority. Yeah. You will be highly welcomed by the Palestinians, of course. We will be very happy to have you at our place. Of course, Israeli occupation makes it difficult not only for Malaysians, but for many others. I remember a few years ago, the Indonesian foreign minister was sent back. She was not allowed in. In fact, Tun Dr. Mahathir visited the West Bank once after retirement, I believe 2005 probably, and he was only allowed for 2 hours. And because of Israeli restrictions, he couldn't make it to the Jenin city, which was waiting for him, organizing some sort of a festival or a carnival in his presence. So it's difficult for people to go. It's difficult for Palestinians to go. We are about 14 million Palestinians. Only less than half of our population are able to travel within the West Bank. 2 million Palestinians in Gaza cannot go to the West Bank. 7 million Palestinian refugees cannot go to Jerusalem, Bethlehem, or Muslims and Christians. They are both not allowed in. And Palestinians within the West Bank are usually divided into Bantustans or small cantons, small towns and cities. They are not allowed to travel freely after MRO or MCO is over. You can just take a Grab or take your car and drive all the way to Kuala Lumpur. You can take a flight from Penang to Kuala Lumpur. Palestinians cannot do that. The 30 kilometers between Jerusalem and Hebron has dozens of military checkpoints. It's really difficult to travel within our own homeland, let alone travel outside. The traveling outside is a very, very difficult thing. But I know many people who have travel bans. My father has travel ban. People cannot just take a bus and leave. Of course, airport, it's difficult. We don't have one in the West Bank, and the one we had in Gaza was destroyed. So if you want to travel out of Palestine, you need to go through the neighboring countries. And you need to be a lucky one to be able to travel. Usually restrictions are put on young males. Young males are usually the ones who face more restrictions. But that's our life, what to do. But I told you earlier, this movement control order is difficult, but it's nothing new for the Palestinians. We have passports, but we cannot travel to most countries. So we don't need COVID to be restricted. You can't just go from one place to another as you wish. So I really hope that people who are living through these tough times will remember the ones who have been living through these tough times for years or for decades, the underprivileged ones. And it's not because of their race, religion, culture, or any other factor that they were born with. It's because of the interest of some. It's because of this military-industrial complex. It's because of the very powerful and arrogant who don't want to address the rights of others. This is why we've been facing this, not only in Palestine, but in many other places. And if we are given the opportunity to develop and flourish, we will have peaceful, happy, successful lives just like others everywhere else. But we are being denied these basic opportunities and rights. I hope with the support of others, we will be able to change things. That's why it's important to have support and involvement from others. That's why I personally thank you for your interest in our cause and our plight, because there are, of course, many in Malaysia who support Palestine, but those who are committed, those who are willing to mobilize resources, to commit their time, these people should be appreciated. And I really thank you for all your support, YB. I appreciate that when you were in the sports ministry, you were the first to speak about the Israeli athletes issue, and that means a lot to the Palestinians. Some would say don't politicize sports, etc. But trust me, everything is politicized in a struggle like the Palestinian struggle. We're being denied very basic rights, very, very basic rights. Our athletes are being shot dead. Our national team cannot convene and train because of Israeli restrictions. So what you've done was really great. I really salute you, and I really appreciate what you've done. And I hope that will continue. In fact, having me here, to me, it means a lot. As a friend, I'm very happy to appear on your show. And as a Palestinian, I think you're doing something for the Palestinian issue. And I hope those who are watching your show will also commit their time, some of their time, especially after this COVID pandemic is over. It will be over. It has taken a long time. It has taken a lot of lives, unfortunately, but it will be over. Just like many other incidents in the past, we have to stand strong. We have to be patient. We have to probably benefit from the time that we have at home. We have to remember those who don't have the leisure of having a home, the thousands who are homeless, not only in this country. This country is better off than many other countries. If this pandemic hits some of the impoverished countries, we will see disasters. In fact, in some countries right now, the numbers of COVID positive patients is not being documented in the first place. So there are people who are suffering and they go unnoticed. So I hope this pandemic will be over very soon, hopefully.
Yeah.
But you have to continue with your show. Even if this pandemic is over, you have to carry on with this show.
Somebody said I shouldn't be a politician, I should host a talk show. But Brother Muslim, one of the reasons why I want to invite you to share is because I think that sometimes we misunderstand, we confuse Palestinian issue being a Muslim only issue or a religious issue. But I feel that it shouldn't be that way. It is a humanitarian issue, because in Palestine, you don't only have Muslims, but you also have Christians, and you also have Jews in Palestine. Yes. In fact, there were Jews in Israel who are supportive of the Palestinian cause. So this is something that I want to make clear to my friends. You know, it is not just a Muslim issue, you know, or an Islamic issue, but it is a humanitarian issue.
I think it's a humanitarian issue in the first place. Number one, it is a humanitarian issue. It's a human rights issue. It's a nation that has been subjected to all kinds of torture for decades. We have been facing occupation for more than 100 years, British colonization and then Israeli Zionist colonization. So we are being denied our basic rights. And this is a humanitarian issue. Somebody has to step in and do something about it. But it is also a political struggle for self-determination. We're being denied our right to have our own nation and our own state. This is very unfair, and we will continue to struggle. And this struggle does not does not subscribe to one faith or religion. This is very important. The Palestinian people are a Muslim majority nation, yes, but there is a big and respectable Christian community within the Palestinian society. We have almost all Christian denominations within our society. Every significant church has its own representatives in the Palestinian community: Orthodox, Protestant, Catholic, of course Greek Orthodox and Roman Orthodox, and etc. There are Baha'is, not a big community, but there are others. There are Druze Palestinians, and there were Jewish community living within Palestine, and they continue to support the Palestinian statehood. Some of them continue to speak Arabic as their mother tongue. In order to end this conflict, everybody has to mobilize their efforts, not only Muslims. And I know Muslims feel very much about the Palestinian issue. It's a religious obligation for every Muslim to end injustice and to end oppression. It's true. And to Muslims, Al-Aqsa Mosque is one of the holiest places in Islam. They have to commit their resources and to support the Palestinian struggle. But at the same time, others have a connection as well. The Christians have a connection in Palestine. The Palestinian Christians are being subjected to all kinds of torture that Palestinian Muslims are being subjected to. And the Palestinians throughout history have been struggling to get a free and democratic state for all of its citizens. And we do respect that everyone has his or her motives, incentives in supporting the Palestinian issue. We appreciate the support, but we have to also draw a line and make it very clear that the Palestinian struggle is the struggle of every free man and woman in this world. It's not for the Muslims alone, it's not for the Christians alone, and it's definitely not for the Jewish community alone. It's everybody's struggle. There is injustice. It has to come to an end. And the Palestinian people who have been denied their right to form a homeland have to get this right of self-determination. I know in Malaysia sometimes domestic politics get things more confusing, get things more complicated, because I have published a piece after the athletes ban in Malaysia Kini, of course, appreciating Malaysia's stand, and I've seen the comments. I've seen many of the comments. Trust me, YB, people get confused. Sometimes you have your own political struggle or your own domestic interests or your own rights, your own concerns. We do respect that, and we don't want to interfere in that. This is your, of course, country. You have to do your best to get your rights and to develop the country, to prosper together. But at the same time, if you see one of the communities supporting the Palestinian struggle wholeheartedly, don't blame them for doing that. Join them in doing that. In fact, we have to salute every good action that has been done by the Malaysians. Malaysians have been very unique in supporting the Palestinian issue. The absolute majority is supporting our struggle. I've seen Muslims, Christians, Hindus, Buddhists, atheists supporting the Palestinian cause. I remember during the war on Gaza in 2014, huge efforts were done by the Hindu and Buddhist communities in Malaysia to actually collect whatever funds and donations for the people in Gaza who have been under Israeli bombardment. I have seen the commitment of many Christian leaders here within the country. And I have, of course, seen the commitment of Muslim leaders, political leaders, religious leaders. We want all of this to work in some sort of harmony in order to end the injustice in Palestine, because we are very unfortunate that we are facing an occupation sponsored by the superpower. We're not going to end it alone. We know that. The Palestinian issue started a century ago, right after the end of the First World War. We were on the losing end. The Ottoman Empire collapsed. The Palestinians and many others in the region became subject to colonization. We will not be able to liberate Palestine alone. Palestinians realize that it's a tough task, not because the Israelis are super genius. This is one of the propaganda stories that they try to propagate, but because they get the aid of the superpower. And the US, during the time, huge military aid, huge economic aid, huge technology aid. So it's very understandable that they continue to dominate the Palestinians. We will work hard to end this occupation, but we need everybody's involvement, everybody's commitment, not because we want to have our own independent, powerful nation to replace Israel and do what Israel is doing. No, we want to end the misery in Palestine. And we have no problem with the Jewish people as a community. This is also one of the misconceptions that many try to play with. We have no problem with the Jewish community. The Jewish community lived in Palestine for centuries, and they were very welcome. But we have a problem with a colonial ideology which aspires to empty Palestine from its people and establish a settlement or establish a new foreign power. We have a lot of problem with that. So if the Zionist movement is over, if the Zionist occupation is over, we have no problem with anyone else. The Jewish community used to pray in the compound, some of the holy compounds of Jerusalem during the Ottoman Empire. And the Ottoman Empire was, in spite of all the criticism that it might have, it was very hospitable to the Jewish communities which were massacred in Europe and which were discriminated against in Europe throughout the years. But when things changed, and unfortunately the Zionist movement got power in Palestine, we were at the end. The Palestinians, be it Muslims, Christians, or etc., were not welcome and were subject to all kinds of Israeli apartheid measures. And doing in fact, YB, just before we start this broadcast, I was checking one of the books, and it's not far. This is a United Nations report. It's very, very slim. I encourage people to go and Google it after this show. It's a United Nations report, Israeli Practices Towards the Palestinian People and the Question of Apartheid, by ISCWA, ESCWA. This is a United Nations agency which documented Israeli practices against the Palestinians, and the conclusion was that what is taking place in Palestine is apartheid. So let's work together to end this apartheid in order to at least solve one of the conflicts of the Middle East. I know it's not the only conflict in the Middle East, but it is probably the most central conflict in the Middle East. If that conflict is over, many other conflicts would probably be resolved. And I believe many of the conflicts of the region are being procrastinated because the Palestinian-Israeli conflict has not reached a conclusion yet. In fact, the superpower has a lot of interest in connecting these conflicts and in prolonging them.
It's interesting that you mention apartheid, because one of the key figures or one of the key supporters of the Palestinian cause in our modern history is really the late Madiba, Nelson Mandela. Hello, are you there?
Yes, of course.
Are you there?
And I remember he said, the freedom of South Africans is not complete until the Palestinians get their freedom.
That's right.
Which is a towering figure, and we need people like.
Hello. Do you want to sign in again? Because your line is quite bad now. Maybe you should sign in again. Okey, apa khabar? Boleh dengar saya? Saya minta saudara Muslim untuk sign in lagi sebab chat ini interesting. Jadi saya nak teruskan perbualan dengan beliau sekejap lah, ya. Dan anda semua masih dengan saya. Are you still with me? Very interesting discussion. I want to ask him about the life in Palestine. Bagaimana kehidupan seorang rakyat di Palestin, kehidupan biasa. Sebab kita selalu dengar seakan-akan orang Palestin ni suka nak lawan saja, nak berperang saja. Tapi sebenarnya apa kehidupan, gaya hidup mereka, macam mana gaya hidup mereka. So I want to still invite Brother Muslim in shortly later. But I think to summarize what he said just now, the Palestinian issue is not merely a Muslim issue. It is not just an Arab issue, but the Palestinian issue is a humanitarian issue. Dia bukan isu untuk orang Islam saja ataupun isu untuk orang Arab saja, tetapi isu Palestin adalah isu kemanusiaan. Jadi apabila kita dalam keadaan politik negara kita, kadang-kadang kita boleh confuse, dan kadang-kadang orang politik yang menyebabkan kita confuse, ya. Seakan-akan ini adalah satu isu untuk satu kaum ataupun isu untuk satu agama semata-mata, tetapi no, it's not. Ini adalah isu kemanusiaan, dan tadi kita bersetuju bahawa antara tokoh dunia yang menyokong isu Palestin ini ialah Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela itu dia bukan seorang Islam dan dia bukan orang Arab, ya, tetapi Nelson Mandela menyokong sehingga ke hujung nyawa beliau menyokong isu Palestin. Mengapa? Kerana beliau ada pengalaman kena tindas, ada pengalaman berada di bawah rejim yang menindas rakyat, rejim yang mengamalkan perkauman, rejim yang tidak memberikan keadilan. Jadi apa yang terjadi ialah kerana pengalaman itu, Nelson Mandela faham keadaan Palestin. Jadi beliau dengan tepat dan dengan betulnya telah memberikan penjelasan dan kemudian sokongan. Saya pernah tengok satu klip video di mana Nelson Mandela berucap tentang Palestin di Amerika Syarikat, dan dalam dewan itu anda boleh bayangkan, you can imagine in the hall they are of course pro-Israeli Americans and they are also pro-Palestinian Americans. Apabila beliau berucap dan ramai rakyat Amerika menyokong isu perjuangan Nelson Mandela di Afrika Selatan. Many Americans supported his cause, but when he stood up and when he spoke on behalf of the Palestinian cause, a lot of Americans felt disappointed. Penyokong dia di yang pro-Israel merasa kecewa. Kami sokong anda, mengapa anda pula pergi menyokong Palestin? Beliau dengan berani, saya tengok ini, boleh tengok di YouTube, beliau kata ini adalah perjuangan kemanusiaan. Perjuangan kemanusiaan. Ya. Musuh anda bukan musuh saya. Musuh saya ialah penindas. Musuh saya orang yang mengamalkan penindasan, kekejaman dan juga perkauman. So that was his stand. I'm very interested to ask Brother Muslim. Hello, Brother Muslim, are you back? Hello. Hello. Hello, brother Muslim. Your line is quite unstable.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Is the line okay?
Not very stable, but I think we'll make do. I want to ask you one question, because in Malaysia, a lot of us imagine Palestinians just love to fight. You get my question? A lot of us, because of media propaganda, kan? Because of the cartoons, we watch the cartoons, and a lot of propaganda. Palestinians just like to go to war. They want to kill people, terrorists. But can you describe to me, what is the average life of a Palestinian? What do they do in the West Bank, in Gaza? Do they prepare for war every day, or do they, what sort of business, industry? Tell us, describe to us the life in Palestine.
One of the successes of the Zionist movement was to dehumanize the Palestinians. They have drawn an image of the Palestinians not very different from the images of extremist terrorist groups. That's why to many actually who follow international news, the images that they will have of the Palestinians are those of an armed militant, not of peasant, not of farmer, not of school teacher, not of a school kid. This is because, unfortunately, Israel has invested a lot of resources on this in Hollywood and in other outlets. In fact, look at this little report. This is a report issued by the Israeli Foreign Ministry, with one half someone wearing a suit, the other half a militant man carrying a machine gun, and the title is "Terrorists in Suits." They're talking about BDS activists. BDS is a non-violent NGO. It is an NGO, and they renounce all kinds of violence. They only want to condemn Israeli practices and Israeli apartheid through civil disobedience, through seminars, forums, boycott, etc. And the way Israel draws their image is that these are terrorists. So let alone the rest of the Palestinians. They have unfortunately succeeded in painting the wrong image of the Palestinians, and we have to deconstruct that. One of the important things that we have to do is to humanize the Palestinians again. There are millions of Palestinian school children, university students who are very eager to live. They want to survive. They want to live. We are not against life. We don't want to see our children dying. We don't want to see the children of others dying. We want to live in peace, but at the same time, we want justice. There are now, I would say, many stories of Palestinian families who are struggling to make a living through the corona crisis, for instance. Palestinians who lost their jobs, the numbers are hundreds of thousands, because over 200,000 Palestinians have to go daily to work in Israeli factories or business centers. These people have lost their jobs because of the restriction order. There are thousands or even hundreds of thousands of Palestinians who are unemployed already. There are over 50% unemployment rate in Gaza. So these people want to survive. They want to feed their children. They want to learn. But Israel is trying to paint the image of a desperate, violent nation on our side, which is not true. In the 1920s, way before Israel was established, the Palestinian people had the highest number of PhD holders in the Middle East, in the whole of the Middle East. And as we speak, in spite of the occupation, in spite of the deprivation, our people, and we're very proud of that fact, our people have the highest literacy rate in the Middle East. 99.8% of the Palestinian people are literate, who are able to read and write and get decent education. In spite of all of the Israeli restrictions, we have over 10 public institutes of higher learning, proper universities. The Islamic University of Gaza and the Birzeit University are among the top universities in the Arab world. And this is very surprising, in fact, even to the Palestinians, because there are many nations who gained their independence decades ago, but the living standards and level of education, the the culture and the life that we have built under occupation is comparable to these other nations. And this is because we want to live. This is because we are not terrorists. This is because we are human beings who are entitled to a decent living, but are being denied this opportunity because of occupation. We have built our own airport, for instance, in 2000, in the 1990s. It was destroyed by Israel in 2002. It was completely shattered. We have built our own shopping malls. They were bombarded by Israel. We have built our own condominiums. They were completely devastated by the Israeli bombardment.
So life in the without all these bombardment and wars and attack and sieges by the Israeli, life in Palestine is really just like life anywhere else. People go to work.
Exactly.
They have their factories. They have their company. They go to shopping mall. I've never. Oh, we lost him again. Wah, jadi nampaknya saya selalunya kita ingat selalunya kalau di Palestin mana ada shopping mall. Rupa-rupanya orang Palestin pun biasa ada pergi shopping mall juga. So I was just saying, I never imagined that there are shopping malls in Palestine. We thought that the image is that everyone is preparing for war every day. The children are taught to carry guns. The children are taught to kill people. They don't go to school.
There are all these facilities, but it's always subject to Israeli violence and attacks. We have shopping malls which were completely destroyed by the Israeli bombardment. We have cinema houses which were closed down due to Israeli restrictions. In fact, one of the biggest problems that we have in Gaza, for instance, is electricity. We are being denied the access to petrol, to fuel, in order to generate electricity in Gaza. The electric generators have been bombarded many times. The amount of fuel that we receive through Egypt or through Israeli occupation is very limited. We are not able to have full 24-hour electricity coverage because of the Israeli restrictions. So we want to have this normal life. At the same time, they always prevent us from having this. That is that you citizens, we give you that. You win this peace treaty, we give you that. So they are using some sort of this Pavlovian tests on us, like as if we were the white. You become peaceful in this sense. We're going to allow you to have more electric coverage per day. You sign a peace treaty which doesn't recognize the basic rights of the Palestinians, and we're going to provide you jobs in Israel, of course, low paying terrible jobs. They're using the power they have to continue to subject us to their domination and occupation. And if we resist, we are painted as terrorists, and we are being denied the basic rights. Well, we will not give up. This has been tried on the Africans in South Africa and in Rhodesia. For decades, they were denied the basic right of living as citizens in their own homeland, but they continued to resist. And Mandela and other freedom fighters were able to get their freedom, to get their rights, and they were later recognized by the same authorities which used to label them as terrorists. They were recognized as freedom fighters. The US, which used to designate Madiba as a terrorist, received him as a hero. And President Obama went to the funeral of the late Mandela, paying respect to this great man. It shows you that things change. Injustice will certainly end, and the same will be done to the Palestinians. Our leaders, who are sometimes being denied the right to even go and speak at international platforms, will be one day received as freedom fighters and as heroes. But we're doing our best to get the individuals in Palestine the freedom that they deserve. it's going to be a long journey, but it's a struggle worth walking through.
In fact, I remember that reading history, a lot of the Israeli leaders were deemed as terrorists by the West. People like Kim Begins and many others. I want to ask you. I want to ask you one question. This is a question from one of my friend Muhammad Amirul, but I want to paraphrase the question. Looking at all the things that Israel has done to Palestinians, your people, your family, your friends, your countrymen. First question is, do you hate Jews?
Do I hate the Jews?
Yeah.
Of course not. I don't keep in my heart hatred towards any specific group of people, because hating them will not make me a better person and will not give me anything. I will not get my rights by hating them. But I hate the occupation. I hate the domination of one group over the other. And I hate injustice. And I don't accept what the Zionist occupation has been doing against the Palestinian people. This is injustice, and it has to come to an end. If they end their occupation peacefully, by all means, we will be very happy and we will celebrate that. But if they don't do so, we are entitled to resist that and to do our best to end their domination and their occupation. But individually, personally, I have nothing against any group of in fact, if the Zionist movement was true to the doing most of what they're doing in order to group people to form the Zionist movement is using and abusing religion, just like what happened in the case of ISIS. They used and abused Islamic scriptures. They used and abused the Islamic faith in order to impose their own control over others. This is what the Zionist movement has done in Palestine. They succeeded, but how long can you maintain a lie? How long can you maintain injustice? 50 years, 100 years? It will crumble. Colonial powers dominated Asia for over 300 years. Where are they now? The British are struggling to maintain a decent, they're not able to even keep what remains of Britain. This is a power that controlled 90% of the world. So injustice will never continue to exist. It will take time. It will take a lot of struggle, a lot of blood and sweat, but it's a struggle worth taking, and it's going to. And so I don't really hate any group of people, and particularly the people of the Jewish faith. And I'm a Muslim, and I believe that the Quran has described certain groups who subscribe to the Jewish faith, certain descriptions, but that was particular to that context, and it was describing historical incidents in which certain groups of people committed crimes. So let's not superimpose scriptures talking about specific incidents on political crisis, because this is happening now in the Middle East. You look at the Sunni-Shia conflict in the Middle East, it's a disastrous, nonsensical conflict which uses all sorts of religious scriptures and historical incidents in order to justify what is happening here and there. No, we're not going to play that game.
I remember
I answered this question.
I just remembered now, but I couldn't recall his name. We just had a dinner with a Jewish academician in your place.
Yes, Propape, yeah. Professor Ilan Pape, a professor in a British university, Exeter University, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. He's a Jew. He grew up in Israel. Yeah, and we had a dinner, we had a very cordial dinner with him, and he is one of the a Jewish who grew up in Israel, who had links to Israel, but yet he supported the Palestinian cause to this day.
In one of his very important books, The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine, he states it very clearly. in order to end the conflict in Palestine, the Israeli people and the Zionist movement has to acknowledge the Nakba, the atrocities that took place in 1948, the ethnic cleansing that took place. If they acknowledge that we were wrong by forcing out hundreds of thousands of Palestinians out of their home, and we want them to return home, things would be very different. The course of history will change. But that's not happening now because they are very powerful. They are very powerful and they are arrogant because of this power. But there is a good saying for a wise man, القوي لا يبقى قويا أبد الدهر. The strong will not remain strong forever, and the weak will not remain weak forever. Things will change. That's why it's better to be guided by our principles rather than our strength or power.
Ramadan is coming. The fasting month is coming. I think next week will be the fasting month. Hello. Hello. Are you there, Brother Muslim? Brother Muslim.
Yeah.
One final
get
question.
the phone to get the signal right.
Yeah. One final question. Is it here?
Yes.
The fasting month is coming, starting next week. Is it over there? How is it like the situation in Ramadan during in Palestine during Ramadan? Is there a lot of
Brother Stephen, this crisis started on the health, on the level of the health sector.
Yeah.
It's a health crisis, but the next stage will be the economic crisis. The first was the health crisis. The second stage will be the economic crisis. The third stage will be the political crisis. And the economic crisis has started. Those who are staying at home, who have lost their jobs, are really struggling to survive. And I'm talking about not only, generally speaking, I'm talking about family members, friends, and cousins who I know. They've lost their jobs, and they're thinking now, what's next? The economic pain is going to be huge. These people will find it very difficult to survive this conflict and to survive this crisis. And it's going to take a lot of efforts to bring things back to normal. People talk about new normal. I think it's going to be very hard. It's going to be a new reality. There has to be genuine and solutions. And fortunately, what some powerful countries are doing is not helping. You've heard probably about President Trump's decision to withdraw funds for the World Health Organization.
Yeah.
This is something that should not be done during a crisis, during a health crisis. What's happening is it needs real leadership, needs quality leaders, needs the right policies, and it's going to be difficult. Now for people in the West Bank, in the Gaza Strip, who are under the pressure of occupation, of already existing Israeli restrictions, they have to think also of their survival, of the jobs that they have lost. It's going to be difficult. And can you imagine that even through this crisis, Israel is still politicking and is still playing dirty? Yesterday, the Turkish government offered to donate medical supplies and coronavirus test kits to Israel with one condition: passing a similar amount to the Palestinian Authority. Israel rejected this offer. They said, no, we don't want it, and we don't want to let you send it to the Palestinians because you are trying to pressure us to do that. Well, it is a big problem because we do need these test kits. So far, we received 10,000 test kits from China. We are very thankful for this contribution, but that's it. And Israel did not allow these equipment to go to Gaza. They allowed it only to go to the West Bank. So we need to survive this crisis first to worry about the survival of the economic crisis and the political crisis that's going to come. But we need to survive this health crisis first, and it's proving to be difficult.
Is there any? I mean, I think we have come to almost an end. But maybe one question, very interesting question from this person called Julian. I paraphrase the question. What is the Palestinian citizens' reaction towards a two-state solution?
I think our reaction towards the two-state solution or the one-state solution or the three-state solution is not important. The more important reaction is that of the powerful one, the occupying authority. Israel has killed off every possible solution. The Palestinians have spoken about the one-state solution in the 70s and the 60s, the democratic state. Israel completely killed off this option. The Palestinians approved the two-state solution during the 1990s. The late Yasser Arafat signed the peace agreements. We started to build up the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank and Gaza. Israel has completely killed off the two-state solution by annexing the West Bank, annexing the Golan Heights, sieging Gaza. Now, President Trump and his son-in-law are talking about the deal of the century, in which the Palestinians will end up having small archipelago of very small towns and villages connected by tunnels and trains. So it's going to be the 100-state solution. It's not one, it's not two, it's not three. We're talking about 100 states, or probably more than 100 states. This is not going to work because the black South Africans were divided into Bantustans. They were scattered. They were subjugated, and all those solutions failed. At the end, what works is ending injustice and recognizing the basic rights of the inhabitants of their homeland. So that's why I think the opinion of the Palestinians about the two-state solution is not important. If you ask the Palestinians, if you do a poll now, some sort of a poll or a referendum in Palestine, Palestinians, they don't have a problem in any solution. One state, two state, whatever it is, as long as their basic rights are recognized, if we get independence, freedom, we have no problem with the name of the solution. We have a problem with the content of the solution. If you tell us two-state solution in which Palestinians will not be able to have their own state institutions, will not be able to control the borders, will not be able to put the name of the state of Palestine on the passports, that's not going to work. So we have to pressure the strong, powerful authority to recognize the rights of the occupied nation. Baru kita dapat keadilan. But talking about one state and two state solution now, while we have no power, it's like a Byzantine what's called the Jadal al-Byzanti, Byzantine dialectics or debate, which nobody wins. Who has come first, the egg or the chicken?
Okay. Today we have, in fact, Brother Muslim, my session is usually half an hour, but today we have gone past 1 hour. 1 hour
Thank
and
you.
15 minutes. Yeah,
Thank you so much.
The reason why I asked about Ramadan was because, and I can totally imagine the difficulty and the challenges that Palestinians will have, especially during the months of Ramadan, as in this sort of situation of epidemic. But one of the reasons why I mentioned Ramadan was because I remember you gave me a box of Palestinian dates, and they were very delicious, not too sweet, because I don't like things that are too sweet. Very, very nice. I want to know, do we sell Palestinian dates here in? Do you still?
Yes, my brother started.
Yeah.
My brother started exporting Palestinian products some 1 year ago, and his business is developing slowly, but with all the COVID restrictions, he's facing difficulties. He has imported some Palestinian dates, Palestinian olive oil, Palestinian olive, and even some Turkish food products, dried fruits, and
so where can we
etc.
buy all that? any links on online stores or anything that we can go to?
He has a shop in Gomba. It's closed now because of the COVID, but he sells online. It's called Bazar Palestine.
Facebook or- Is
It's
it-
available on Facebook and Instagram. I think
Okay,
they deliver online.
Okay.
But I really hope that this pandemic will be resolved soon, because he and many others will face tough times promoting their good dates. We want to have good dates during Ramadan.
Right. I will post I will search for the link and I will post it in my
Sure.
on my Facebook page, so that people can also buy for themselves. Very nice Palestinian dates. Thank you very
I
much.
shall get you some more dates after this. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Brother Muslim. I wish you all the best. Please
Thank you.
stay safe and stay healthy in this pandemic season. And let me know, if after the movement restriction control, movement restriction order, come to Penang. I need to host you in Penang and I'll show you, give you a personal tour of my kampung.
I will be very happy to do so. Thank you so much, YB. Thank you so much, and it was an honor being with you here in this show. I really hope to see you in Kuala Lumpur soon as well.
Yes, of course. Any final message to all our friends here?
Stay at home, stay safe, take care, and remember those who are underprivileged during these tough times. Some people don't even have a home to stay at. Thank you so much.
Shukran.
Afwan, Shishir. Terima kasih.
Alright.
Okay, bye.
Wow. Itu dia. Rakan saya orang Palestin, Muslim Imran, Brother Muslim Imran. Brother Muslim sekarang tengah buat PhD di Universiti Malaya. Beliau telah berada di Malaysia selama 17 tahun dan saya rasa sesi ini amat menarik sebab dia memberikan kita satu pencerahan tentang isu-isu Palestin yang mungkin ramai antara kita tidak tahu, dan kita boleh tanya sendiri kepada orang Palestin, dan beliau merupakan antara pemimpin muda Palestin yang berada di Malaysia. We can ask him ourselves, what is the pengalaman, experience of a Palestinian here in Malaysia. We ask tadi, kita dengar banyak isu-isu yang mungkin kita keliru, tetapi beliau telah memberikan pencerahan yang amat baik, dan saya nampak ramai orang, tak kira orang Melayu, orang Cina, orang India, rakyat Malaysia, kawan-kawan saya di sini pun semuanya telah mendapat ilmu dan pengetahuan yang baru. Jadi malam ini kita berdoa untuk Palestin, rakyat di Palestin dan juga rakyat Malaysia agar kita terlindung daripada wabak penyakit. Let us pray for the people of Palestine, people of Malaysia and the people of the world, so that we will soon be safe from this pandemic, and may justice prevail. Selamat petang, terima kasih. PM Ori Steven Sim, aka Boss. 谢谢你们。ரொம்ப நன்றி. Vanakkam.